it occurred to me when I was listening to my friend Professor Eli Barnavi that things are even a little worse than he was very eloquently describing. He said that he doesn't remember in history a case that a government, and you said a government, not Israel, but it will come, was as isolated as Israel is today. And it occurred to me that this government, with this campaign about the delegitimizing of Israel, tries to convince us that we are an island of sanity in an ocean of insanity. It's like, crazy people believe that everybody else is crazy, and they are the only one who are normal and realize what is the reality. But I will come to that later because David wants me to say a few words about the Arab Spring and how it is perceived in Israel. And I will start with how the Arabs perceive the way Israel looks at the Arab Spring. I was in Egypt a few weeks ago with the Israeli Peace Initiative group that I hope I will have some time to talk about this because I'm here not only as a journalist but as one of the founders of this group. And we were invited by the foreign minister and the elected Secretary General of the Arab League, Dr. Arabi, to present the Israeli Peace Initiative to him. And I, with a few of my friends, we stayed a few days longer to see some other people and to learn more about the revolution. And we went to Tahrir Square, and I bought a baseball hat with, they sell all those souvenirs from the revolution, the January Revolution. And on the hat was the Egyptian flag, was titled in Arabic, Irfa rasak enta Masri, raise your head, you are Egyptian. And it was a very hot day, like it usually is in Cairo, and I went to the museum and wearing the hat. And the guy at the entrance looked at the hat and he asked, where are you from? And I said, although some people in Tahrir Square advised me not to admit that I'm Israeli because it's not safe, I couldn't help it, and I didn't say Turkey, I said Israel. And he looked at me, and he looked at the hat, and he said, aren't you friends of Barak? So this is the way they look at us, and this is actually the truth. We were friends of Mubarak. We felt very comfortable with the slogan, Israel is the only democracy in the Arab world. There is no civil society in the Arab world. We are Europeans, we don't belong there, and we are isolated. So give us the benefit that you give to people who are the victims. This was part of the victimization psychology, political psychology, that is still having the upper hand. It's the slogan in Yiddish, you say, Samson de Nebuch. You are the strongest power in the Middle East, but you are still the victim. You are the occupier, but you are in trouble. You are existentially in trouble. And the other thing is, and I think also Eli spoke about this, the message is, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. We are happy with Mubarak. We are even happy with Assad, because you don't have to talk to Assad. Now, God forbid, maybe he will have to step down or he will be thrown out, and there will be a Sunni government that will be willing to talk to Israel. And I ask myself, perhaps the reason that Israel doesn't really care about what's going on just few minutes from the border, which is a massacre, one of the reasons is probably that Israel is not interested in a change. Israel is the capital of the status quo. Don't rock the boat, because if you rock the boat, we will have perhaps to reveal our cards. And once we have to reveal our cards, everybody will see that they're empty. That what we have to offer is what my colleague has just mentioned, and unfortunately, at the same time, there is a panel which I believe is more important than this one about the settlements. Because what Netanyahu is doing is gaining time, and the revolution in the Arab world is for him a gift. Because when Israel is, again, an island of tranquility, Israel is the only place where the government doesn't kill people, and Europe doesn't have to get involved or to take hard decisions whether to get involved or not, because we have a democratic government that, you like it or not, but it was democratically elected. The Palestinians are not willing to talk to us. They did favor to Netanyahu because they decided to sign the Egyptian document, the reconciliation between Hamas and the Fatah. And we are so lucky that we have those three quartet conditions that are tying the arms of the Europeans and the Americans, because Hamas is still on the terrorist list, so you don't have to talk to anyone. So we can have a party and build more settlements. Just to give you one figure that people don't realize. In '93, when we signed the Oslo Agreement, in September '93, there were 110,000 settlers in the West Bank. Forget East Jerusalem. Now we have more than 300,000. So while it's almost 20 years after the Madrid conference, which started the peace process, the peace process turns out to be a prescription for building settlements. Because as long as you are in a process, you don't have to interfere with nitty-gritties as freezing settlements. Because what's important is what's happening in this room and not in the other hall, where Hagit Ofran from Peace Now, which is doing a great job monitoring the settlements, is telling the truth about what's happening on the ground while we talk today. Now, going back to Egypt, it was very surprising to us that we got a call from the Egyptian embassy, because when we decided to launch the Israeli Peace Initiative, which is the first Israeli, it's unofficial, but still, it's the first Israeli response to the Arab Peace Initiative. And I will just mention, for those of you who are not, my wife always tells me, don't take it for granted that everybody knows the details. So I will just briefly repeat the message that we were getting on March 28th. This was one day, unfortunately, before the attack in Netanya, in the Seder, in the hotel. The Arab League unanimously offered Israel peace and normalization for the Israeli withdrawal to the 67 lines with a just and agreed upon solution to the refugee problem based on Resolution 194. And the Israeli Peace Initiative that was launched by a group of academics, former politicians, former chief of staff, former of the army, heads of the Secret Service and the Mossad, senior representatives from the business community, is accepting the Arab Peace Initiative as the basis for negotiations and is proposing the details. Now, we started working on this a few months before the revolution started in Tunisia, and we were very worried that the Arabs now will be busy with their own affairs and we will become completely irrelevant. And the surprise was, the first one was that the Palestinian President Abu Mazen invited our group to Ramallah, and this was for us the first surprise. The next one was a call we got from the Egyptian embassy just a month ago, inviting us to meet with the foreign minister. He even agreed to address the Israeli media that joined us, and insisted that we will also meet with civil society, representatives from the civil society, and we had a very successful meeting with members of the Council on Foreign Affairs, which includes very senior former diplomats, including our friend Muhammad Bassiouni, who was the ambassador to Israel, and we spent about 2 hours with them. And then we also met with a group of young people who just formed a new organization titled, I think, the Liberal Forum of Cairo. Young people who spent days and nights in Tahrir Square. And the message from all of them was, we are interested in building relationship with Israel. We will make sure that nobody will touch, even the Muslim Brotherhood, the peace agreement with Israel, because it's our interest, not because we are in love with you. Sometimes I think that, you know, the slogan, make peace, not war, Israel would like to make love, not war, or not peace. So their message was, we are ready to warm up the relationship, but as David mentioned, there were hardly no slogans and banners against Israel in Tahrir Square, but they said, if there will be a revolution in Israel, if there will be a resistance, and hopefully it will be a non-violent resistance of the Palestinians, we will be back in Tahrir Square. And my nightmare is the following. If until next April, when the Palestinians are supposed to hold their elections, we will still be stuck with negotiating the parameters of the negotiations when, if President Obama will vote at the UN against President Obama, which is the case right now, because the Palestinians are thinking about doing simply copy-paste of Obama's speech with the principle of borders based on the 67 lines with swap, and let's see if Obama will vote against Obama. But don't think that I'm joking. It may happen. He did it on settlements just a few weeks ago. And he may do this again because the Congress is threatening to cut the budget of the State Department if the ambassador, the American ambassador at the UN will vote against Israel or in favor of the Palestinian, which is, you know, we are back to the zero-sum game. So going back to this scenario, there is a golden opportunity now since the Hamas lost its capital, its hold in Syria, if you want to put it in a journalistic way, Syria out, Egypt in. And if you have the leader, the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the big brother of Hamas, Sheikh Qaradawi, blaming Assad for butchering Muslims, they have nothing to do in Syria. Hassan Nasrallah made a big mistake when he endorsed Assad, which I believe it's either way. If Assad will agree to compromise with the opposition, he will not be the same Assad anymore. If he goes away, there will be other opportunities. So the Hamas realized, and this is why Mash'al went to Egypt and was willing to sign the reconciliation agreement with the Fatah, while the Fatah put on top of its agenda the campaign of recognition of Israel in the 67 lines. Hamas didn't do this with great excitement. It was almost imposed on them. Now, what's important is not so much the text of the agreement, but the context of the agreement. And the context is, one option is some progress in the peace process if we see a recognition of Palestinian state. If the two-state solution camp will have the upper hand, then Hamas will have to change to make decisions and that may lose the elections. But if, unfortunately, Abu Mazen will fail, he said to some people that in this case, if they fail in September, his calendar in October is empty. This may be the end of this Fata Morgana of the Palestinian Authority, because it's either two states or one state. There is no such a thing as 1.5 states, which is the case now. Israel is a state, full-fledged state, and the PA is a kind of a subcontractor of the state of Israel. In other words, half a state or partial state. I don't know how long the Europeans will be willing to pay the bills, which is about 1 billion euros every year, which I think Greece could use. Keep in mind that the donor mechanism was established to support the peace process, not as a humanitarian or philanthropic mechanism. And then there are Palestinians who are suggesting to close down the Muqata in Ramallah, the government, and hand over the keys to the Israeli military government. I can tell you that the Israeli governor, former governor of the West Bank, told me that this is his nightmare. He said, other than, the good news is that I will be promoted to Major General if this happens. But the bad news is that Israel will not have anymore this peace process as a fig leaf to expanding the settlements. So this option of don't rock the boat, we are an island of sanity, this fantasy, I think, is about to come to an end. And I think the deadline is next April. If nothing happens before that, the Hamas may take over the West Bank. We may see what we see in Gaza today in the West Bank. It's either a Hamas regime or a kind of a Somalization, which is a complete chaos. But as Professor Barnavi said, you go to Israel, you go to the beaches, you go to the restaurants, business is good, much better than in many countries in Europe. And it's still not bad enough. We are still in this atmosphere of righteousness, and I think that it was either Netanyahu or Lieberman who invented this campaign against the delegitimacy of Israel. And I realized how clever it was when I visited London for Yachad to meet with Jewish groups. And when I realized that people are very concerned about what is happening in Israel and about the future. And when I asked them, so why don't you go to the streets? Why don't you raise your voice? Why don't you do something? The answer was, we will be blamed by the Israeli embassy for supporting this process of delegitimizing Israel. So first, Israel is doing illegitimate things like settlements. Then we complain that we are delegitimized. And then we demand people not to say anything because we are isolated. So being isolated, Eli, is part of the Israeli strategy. It's the old strategy of the whole world is against us. They are, it's not, like Bibi keeps saying, it's not about 67, it's about 48. It's about our existence. While he refuses to take 67 as the baselines. While he keeps saying the issue is not territories. The issue is the refusal of the Arabs and mainly the Palestinians to accept a Jewish state. As if, I accept Israel as a Jewish state. No, I accept Israel as a state of all its citizens with a Jewish majority for the time being, as you said. Thank you.